Śrīmad Bhāgavatam ki jai, Bhaktivedanta ki jai, Gaura Pramanati, Hare Hare. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Vyasam
Devim Saraswati Vyasam
Tato Yayan Udhiraje
Tato Jayam Udiraye
Nasta Prayeshu Vadreshu
Nashta Prayeshu Badreshu
Nityam Bhavata Sevaja
Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya
Bhagavati Uttama Sloke
Bhagavati Uttama Shloke
Bhakti Bhavati Naistiki
Bhaktir Bhavati Naistiki.
Reading from Śrīmad Bhāgavatam, Canto 5, Chapter 18. The residents of Jambudit offer prayers. Text number 33. Yasmina Sankheya Visheshanama
Yasmina Sankhya Visheshanama
Rupa Kritoka Vikalpitejam
Rupa Kritauka Vibhikalpiteyam
Sankhya Jayata Tvadrisa Paniyate
Sankhya Tattva Paniyate
Tasmai Nama Sankhya Nara Tasmai Nama Sankhya Nidarshanaya iti Deiti
Tasmai Namah Sankhya Nidarshanaya Devi
Yasmina Sankheya Visheshanama
Yasmina Sankhya Visheshanama
Rupa Kritoka Vikalpitejam
Rupa Kritauka Vibhikalpateyam
Sankhya Tadrisa Paniyate
Sankhya Tattva Paniyate
Tasmai Nama Sankhya Nidarshanaya Deiti
Tasmai Namah Sankhya Nidarshanaya Devi
Yasmina Sankheya Visaya Nama
Yasmina Sankhya Visheshanama
Rupan Kritoska Vikalpiteyam
Rupa Kritauka Vibhikalpateyam
Sankhya Tadrisa Paniyate
Sankhya Tattva Paniyate
Tasmai Nama Sankhya Nidarshanaya Deiti.
Tasmai Namah Sankhya Nidarshanaya Devi.
Would you like to repeat, please?
Yasmina Sankhya Visheshanama
Yasmina Sankheya Visheshanama
Rupa Kritauka Vibhikalpiteyam
Rupa Kritaka Vivikalpitejam
Sankhya Tattva Paniyate
Sankhya Jayata Todrisa Paniyate
Tasmai Namah Sankhya Nidarshanaya Devi.
Tasmai Nama Sankhya Nidarshanaya Deiti. Translation, word by word. If you would like to repeat, please. Jasmine,
Yasmin,
in you,
in you,
the Supreme Personality of Godhead.
the Supreme Personality of Godhead.
Asankhyeya,
Asankhya,
innumerable.
innumerable.
Vishesha,
Vishesha,
particular.
particular.
Nama,
Nama,
names.
names.
Rupa,
Rupa,
forms.
forms.
Akrito,
Akrita,
possessing bodily features.
possessing bodily features.
Kavivi,
Kavipi,
by great learned persons.
by great learned persons.
Kalpita,
Kalpita,
imagine.
imagine.
Iyam,
Iyam,
this.
this.
Sankhya,
Sankhya,
number.
number.
Yaya,
Yaya,
by whom.
by whom.
Tattva,
Tattva,
of the truth.
of the truth.
Drisa,
Drisha,
by knowledge.
by knowledge.
Apaniyate,
Apaniyate,
is extracted.
is extracted.
Tasmai,
Tasmai,
unto him.
unto him.
Nama,
Nama,
respectful obeisances.
respectful obeisance.
Sankhya,
Sankhya,
Nidarshanaya,
Darshanaya,
who is the revealer of this numerical knowledge.
who is the revealer of this numerical knowledge.
Te,
Te,
unto you.
unto you.
Iti,
Iti,
thus.
thus.
Translation and purport by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. Translation. O my Lord, your name, form, and bodily features are expanded in countless forms. No one can determine exactly how many forms exist. Yet, you yourself, in your incarnation as the learned scholar Kapila, have analyzed the cosmic manifestation as containing 24 elements. Therefore, if one is interested in Sankhya philosophy, by which one can enumerate the different truths, he must hear it from you. Unfortunately, non-devotees simply count the different elements and remain ignorant in your actual form. I offer my respectful obeisances unto you. If you can repeat, please. O my Lord.
O my Lord.
Your name,
Form
and bodily features are expanded in countless forms. No one can determine exactly how many forms exist. Yet you yourself, in your incarnation as the learned scholar Kapila, have analyzed the cosmic manifestation as containing 24 elements. Therefore, if one is interested in Sankhya philosophy, by which one can enumerate the different truths, he must hear it from you. Unfortunately, non-devotees simply count the different elements and remain ignorant of your actual form. I offer my respectful obeisances unto you. Purpose. Philosophers and scientists have been trying to study the entire cosmic situation. I have been theorizing and calculating in different ways for millions and millions of years. However, the speculative research work of so-called scientists or philosophers is always interrupted when he dies, and the laws of nature goes on without regard for his work. For billions of years, changes take place in the material creation, until at last the whole universe is dissolved and remains in an unmanifested state. Constant change and destruction. Bhutva pralijate. It's perpetual, going on in nature. Yes, the material scientists want to study natural laws without knowing the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who is the background of nature. As Krishna states in Bhagavad Gita 9:10, Mayadyaksena prakriti sajate sacharacharam hedunanena kaunteya jagat viparivartate. This material nature is working under my direction, O son of Kunti, and it is producing all moving and immoving beings. By the rules, this manifestation is created and annihilated again and again. Now, the material creation is manifest. Eventually, it will be annihilated and remain for many millions of years in a dormant state, and finally, it of nature. Onankyati virandasya gyanangyana salakaya chakshurulamakanchena tasmai Sri Gurave Namaha. Mukhaṁ karoti vachalam Pangum Langayate Girim Jat Kripatamaham Bande Sri Guru Dinatarinam Namaham Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prestaya Bhutale Śrīmad Bhaktivedanta Swami iti namine Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvisesa Sunjavadi Paschatya Deshatarine Vanchakalpataruyascha Kripa Sindhuvya Evacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavyo Namo Namaha Jai Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadara Srivasati Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Hare Krishna. Thank you for attending Śrīmad Bhāgavatam class. So this is the last prayer that Ariyama is offering to Krishna in his incarnation as Kurma Avatar. So we have been studying the prayers of different residents from different varshas. So now, well, as we understand, different incarnations of Krishna, they are glorifying in these varshas, different chiefs of devotees, all are advanced devotees, pure devotees. So they try to glorify the Lord through different selected prayers. Prayers are revealing their mood, their circumstances, and how they can address the Lord in a particular manner. So in this way we can understand their level of consciousness. So Stanan is the topic of this chapter, especially this canto of Bhagavatam, that is more trying to understand how the living entities are distributed in all different different planets in our material creation, universe. But this distribution is done based on their level of consciousness. So we are now understanding that is what is the consciousness of these devotees in these different varshas. And now it's Ariyama in this Hare Varsha is Hiranyamaya Varsha. And Hare Varsha is Prahlad Maharaj, yeah, he prays to Lord Nrsimhadev. That's also another way how we can understand the character and the mood of a pure devotee prayers of Prahlad Maharaj. Previously we studied quite particular those prayers when Prahlad Maharaj is praying to Lord Nrsimha first that please protect me or remove those inappropriate, inauspicious things from me and make me fearless. It's quite important, that point. And also, at the same time, he doesn't remain in that plan. He asks for something else. Do you remember what is that? What he's asking after that? The prayers of Lord Prahlad Maharaj to Nrsimhadev, when in the beginning he's requesting, please remove all the inauspiciousness and make me fearless. And the second text, he's asking for something very important that reveals the character of a pure devotee as well.
For demons, pacify the old envious people in this world.
Yeah, that's right. It's praying for the benefit of others. Yes, please help. I'm praying the Swastias to that prayer. Very important prayer. It's revealing the character of a pure devotee. That is not just praying for his own benefit, it's praying for the benefit of others. So it's something that we need to understand, because basically now, for example, studying this topic of the creation, understanding the levels of consciousness of the different entities, it's Bhagavatam teaching us why we are in this material world and how we can come out from there. So, different teachings. Now, for example, in this part, studying specifically the elements of the creation, 24 elements that is described in detail in the third canto, and especially here is mentioned the incarnation of Krishna. Krishna himself is giving this knowledge in authorized manner, so, and his incarnation as Kapila Deva. But another point of this chapter, this text especially, is describing not just the elements of the nature that is described by Krishna himself, it's also describing or mentioning about Krishna's different forms, incarnations, and names, activities. So it's quite important, this point, to understand the link between these two, because all this material creation takes place because Krishna manifested that. Krishna is directly organizing that, and why take place this creation? Because this, for example, for us studying these 24 elements, how are organized, and is how it's imposed on us. Because if we understand what is the purpose of this creation, that we are not even have influence upon them, because it's something that we receive as a spiritual soul. So why is all these things? We can question ourselves. And the idea basically is to understand the origin of our conditioning, or how is this taking place, and how we can come out from there. And this is nicely described in the second canto. It's the chapter 9, the first 3 texts, where, for example, it's explained that Krishna himself is making the arrangements to the material energy to influence in the spiritual soul. Krishna is arranging that. But why Krishna is arranging that? It's because the desire of the living entity, because we have free will. So we have our free will to choose what we desire, and based on our desires, Krishna is arranging this, the influence of the entity, and how that effect is the different type of bodies that we have according to our desires, based on that misconception that who I am and the I am mine, because our tendency of being enjoyer and controllers. So based on that, that's all the variety of the 8,004,000 type of bodies are created because of our desires. So how come we can come out from that? Also in the third text of this 9th chapter of second canto is described the only way how we can come out from there. Do you have any idea what is it?
Devotional Service.
Yeah, that's right. It's just basically coming out from that misconception. And that misconception is understanding what is our constitutional position. And our constitutional position is to be a servant. And to be a servant means to be engaged in a devotional service. The proper constitutional activity of the living entity. It means to be engaged in devotional service to Krishna. It's the only way how we can come out from the influence of the material energies, getting new bodies according to our material desires. So that means for changing those concepts, who I am, we have to change the nature of our desires. And the Bhagavatam is teaching us that. Throughout the whole Bhagavatam, we will learn the different desires, how they are channel how dovetails in devotional service, different type of devotees with different desires. So it's for us, it's learning lessons that we have to from Bhagavatam and how we can apply it according to our circumstances. It's a gradual process. So in that way, if we understand, for example, the description now of the 24 elements, understanding that Krishna is behind that, because there are many attempts on different people, in this case, as Prabhupada mentioned in the purpose, philosophers, scientists, trying to understand our nature. So we try to describe what are the elements, and yesterday nicely our Hanuman Prabhu was explaining how the efforts of scientists even creating some instruments trying to find the God particle in that searching for what is in this nature, what is it. So that tendency is there, but because it's not properly dovetailed in a right manner, so the knowledge that we can acquire, it's not the real one, and it's not permanent, it's not eternal, not permanent, and doesn't give us the goal that we want to be free from this cycle of repeat birth and death, and in our continual pursuit of happiness in a wrong, with wrong means, so experiencing just insatisfaction. So in that way, for example, we can we can see that the creation that takes place, if we can study a bit more as a reference, the third canto, more probably most of you did it, how Kapila Devi is describing this creation, the 24 elements. In the beginning it said that it's the unmanifested modes of nature, that everything is Brahman. So the modes of nature are in a state of unmanifested state. So when they get manifested, they take it's becoming Pradhan. The Brahman, and in manifested modes of nature, it's Pradhan. And then the Lord inject time and the living entities, and then that become Mahatattva. And then all elements take place. The first one is the subtle one, as we heard before, is false ego, ahankara. It comes from the most subtle to the gross. So then we have the mind, the intelligence, but it's the combination with the modes of nature. So ahankara with the mode of goodness give place to the potency of the mind. Then we have the mode of passion with ahankara, it's the intelligence. And also we have the mode of ignorance give place to the senses and all the other ingredients, all the elements. So perhaps you will wonder why we understand that intelligence is superior than the mind. So why the mind takes place with goodness and why the intelligence takes place with a combination of ahankara and passion? Do you have that? Have you questioned yourself about it? You wonder why is that? And what would be the answer to that question? Because in Bhagavad Gita we understand that Krishna explains that intelligence is superior than the mind. And we also understand that mode of goodness is superior than mode of passion. So why the combination of ahankara and the mode of passion give place to the potency of the intelligence, and why mind with the mode of goodness? How we can reconcile that? Do you have some ideas? Can you help me to understand that, please?
What is your question?
how the mode of passion combined with the ahankara is giving place to the intelligent, understanding that passion it's lower than the goodness, and intelligence is superior than the mind. And the goodness combined with the ahankara take place to the potency of the mind. How we can understand that?
In Bhagavatam, you referred that same chapter, I think, chapter number 26, third canto, Kapila Dev. So he explains in that verse 27, from the false ego of goodness, another transformation takes place. From this evolves the mind, whose thoughts and reflection give rise to desire. And also he says that mind of the living entity is known by the name Lord Aniruddha. So in that way, I think it's the goodness, the mind is comparing to the Lord, so that is superior, and that the passion comes intelligence. And then here intelligence also is saying the function of the intelligence help to ascertain the nature of object when they come into view and to help the senses.
Mm-hmm.
So passion means you do some activity.
Yeah.
So basically that's where the intelligence, it likes to plan, it likes to give you some data to the senses and everything. So that way it is.
Yeah, you're giving a good answer in that way, in the sense that the function of the mind, function of the mind is thinking, feeling, desiring, yeah? And intelligence is assisting the mind to planning, it's more strategical. So in that, but the superiority of the intelligence is there. So why it comes from passion? That was a little bit more the idea, the question, because goodness is superior and passion should be intelligent coming from passion, from goodness, not from passion. So the answer basically is, in one sense, related to what you said. I was listening to some lectures in this point, regarding this point. The answer is that if we understand that due to our desires, the nature of our desires, we caused our entanglement in this material nature, different bodies, according to our contaminated desires. So in that way, in order to fulfill our desires, we need our intelligence to be under the influence of passion, because only in that way that can facilitate the purpose of the mind according to the desires, with plans and strategies how to satisfy those desires. Because purified intelligence is not under the passion and the influence of mode of passion according to the material nature. So that is one answer, because of the nature of our desires. The intelligence has to be under the influence of the mode of passion. So it's also another point that we need to understand how this dynamic works, because this knowledge is given to us by Krishna himself to help us to come out from this conditioning. If we understand these functions, so we will be able to direct our activities in the right manner. And also, if we understand that Krishna is the one who is giving these instructions, we will be able to approach or have the proper attitude towards this knowledge. And that is exemplified by Arjuna in Bhagavad Gita, when he has the proper attitude for inquiry. He acknowledged that, okay, I'm bewildered due to the weaknesses of my mind, but I need your guidance. Tell me what is the best for me, so I'm surrendered to you. So in that way, with that attitude, we can approach to these teachings, to this knowledge, and receive the benefit of that. Because many people, many scholars, philosophers, and scientists, like Prabhupada mentioned, they try also to approach to these studies, this knowledge, information, by their own means or different methods. But because the attitude is not appropriate, Krishna is not revealing the knowledge or the path, authorized path to them, or they are not even able to take advantage of the authorized path because the approach or the attitude is not appropriate. So another point that for us also to understand, so as a reference, briefly, I'll try to mention how what are those 24 elements described in third canto. Most probably you know about it. So we mentioned before is from the subtle to the gross. We have the mind, ahankara, mind, intelligence, and the 5 elements. That is ether, air, it's from the subtle, no? Air, fire, water, and earth. So we have that cycle. And from there, for example, we have also the other elements are the senses and the object of the senses. So we know what are them? The senses, 5 senses. Yeah, we learn in this school as well. No, the karmendriyas and the gyanendriyas and karmendriyas. We have. So I won't go through that because I guess, in one sense, something that most of us we know. But the idea basically is understanding these structures of these elements are given to us for one purpose. To utilize them in a right manner that can facilitate us to coming out from our conditioning if we have the proper knowledge. Otherwise, it would be like again and again different methods of philosophers or scientists or people who they don't have knowledge, the tendency to look for enjoyment or happiness in a wrong manner, looking for enjoyment that at the end it won't give us the satisfaction that we are looking for. So whatever endeavor that we can have, or scientists or other philosophers or people looking for happiness without the proper method, it will be fruitless and always frustration. And very interestingly, Prabhupada in the purpose mentioned that you can endeavor, or scientists can endeavor getting high level of knowledge from material point of view, but doesn't remain permanent because they are also in the cycle of continued birth and death. After they die, the material nature will go on. It won't stop or take regard about what are the achievements, because when they take birth again, they have to start in the same process. Well, we have some cases of genius, little kids, they take birth. It's as a proof of reincarnation, how we can explain that at very young age people have a lot of abilities. And it's in many cases previous activity, previous life experience. That's one explanation. So, but doesn't mean, for example, they are exempt about the whole learning process that all of us we have to pass through by obtaining a body. So, in essence, the idea is to understand why we have these elements, who we are, understanding who we are, who is behind that, and what is the relationship of that, because yesterday was very nicely also presented as a question with Hanuman Prabhu mentioning that the living entity is pure in nature, and the material nature, they don't match in nature as a constitutional essence, spiritual and matter, how they can combine, because that is our experience right now. We are spiritual souls, but we are having the experience of this material existence. So how this is combined, there is a link in between. So we need to understand that point, that many scientists or philosophers, they fail to reach that knowledge, that understanding. for the continuous, for that is the continuous samsara. So in the Shastras it's explained that aspect, as we mentioned before, in the second canto, 9th chapter, text first, second and third, explain that dynamic. It's Krishna who is arranging that in different ways. Yesterday was explained Paramatma, because Krishna is the origin of the spiritual material energy, and how these are combined is Krishna himself, the link for that. Through his different energies and himself as a Paramatma, it's in that way how that takes place, or what we are experiencing now as well. That's one point. Another point in this purpose is also nicely mentioned about the different forms, names, Nama, Rupa, Guna, and Lila of the Lord. And it's this constructs, it's also the way how we interact. When we want to know about somebody, we ask what is his name, and then how he looks, or how she looks like, or what are his qualities or his qualities, and then what activities. It's the same principle for us also to learn the Lord, and like how the Shastras is describing, or for us to understand that. So Krishna, when in this, especially in this text, is talking about the innumerable forms of the Lord, countless. So that is described nicely by Lord Chaitanya himself in the Chaitanya Charitamrita to Sanatana Goswami. That is in Madhya Lila, if I'm not wrong, it's in chapter 20, when Lord Chaitanya explained this knowledge to Sanatana Goswami. So I'll try to summarize a bit about this point, how the different incarnations of the Lord, or different forms of the Lord, take place. So we know that the original form, Swayambhavan Krishna form, is the cowherd boy in Vrindavan, and from him all the creation, the spiritual material world take place from his energies, and he himself take different incarnations through his different potencies. So in the Chaitanya Charitamrita Chaitanya Charitamrita described about the internal potencies of the Lord, the living entities, and the external potency of the Lord. But it said that from his internal potency, all the spiritual worlds take place. The living entities are also part of his energies, and the Bahiranga Shakti, that is the external energy, all the material creation takes place. So about his forms, we have from his internal point energy, Krishna has two forms of the Lord. For example, from the original Swayambhavan, we have the Prakash, Prabha Prakash, and the Vaibhava Prakash. So from the Prakash, Prabha Prakash, on the forms of the Lord, they have the same qualities, the same form of the Lord. So that's, for example, when Krishna expand himself in Dansaras, or in Dwarka, when all the queens. So it's the same features of the Lord, with the same activities, qualities. So that's our Prabha Prakash. And then we have another category that is called Vaibhava Prakash. So different forms of the Lord with different qualities. And that from the original one is Lord Balaram. That expand from Krishna himself. From him, we understood before in previous classes, we described the Chaturvyuha take place, the first Chaturvyuha. So, but we have from Balaram, we have two categories. That is the Vilas and the Swayam. sorry, the Vilas Prakash and the Swansa Prakash. So then from there, from the Vilas category, we have all the Chaturvyuhas. Then we have the second Chaturvyuhas, and then from the second Chaturvyuha we have all the 24 Vishnu form of the Lord. And from the Swansa category we have the another six categories of the incarnations of the Lord. So those are described in the, if I'm not wrong, in the first canto as well, in the third chapter, the different incarnations of the Lord. And also, of course, Chaitanya Charitamrita. We have six categories. The first one are Lila avatars, Purusha avatars, Manvantara avatars. We have Guna avatars, Shakti Vaishya avatars, and
Yuga?
sorry?
Parsurama.
Yeah, Parashurama, yeah, but we have Guna avatars, Lila avatars, Guna avatars, Purusha avatars, Manvantara avatars, Shakti Vaishya avatars, and come on, one more, I forgot.
Yuga.
Yuga avatar we said?
We didn't say Yuga.
No, Yuga we didn't.
Okay. Sorry,
Oh.
recapitulation. It's Lila avatar, Guna avatars, Manvantara avatars,
Shakti
Shakti Vaishya avatars,
and Yuga.
Purusha
Purusha avatars.
Yuga avatar.
I said it in the second.
No.
No, that's
No,
not
it's
very
okay.
clear.
Okay, you know better. Okay, you got it. We have the six categories, and all are again Krishnas. But there is a special aspect in the Shakti Vaishya avatar. We have two categories: those who are directly empowered for the Lord by the Krishna's energies, and those who are living entities who are empowered for the Lord with specific energy of the Lord. And the other one is the vibhutis of the Lord. That is described nicely in Bhagavad Gita as well. So those are different incarnations of the Lord, and in that way we have those are described in Bhagavatam also. If I'm not wrong, on the third chapter, first canto, it describes 25 different Lila avatars. We hear about 10 Das avatars, the main ones, but there are more. In Bhagavatam 25, the little more descriptions about those incarnations. So again, this is based on Chaitanya Charitamrita, the teachings of Lord Chaitanya to Sanatana Goswami. Well, this is one point that I wanted to mention in brief. In my notes also, mainly is the idea to understand why the creation takes place. And it's Krishna himself that it's organizing this with the purpose to facilitate us, living entities, our purification process, because always we hear that the root cause of our condition in our circumstance is the nature of our desires. And this creation takes place because of our desires, and not necessarily because Krishna wants to create this material nature. It's Krishna trying to facilitate us to experience the nature of our desires. So in that way, we can see his endeavor trying to relate to us his creations of living entities, because he is always in the pursuit to foster the loving relationship with the living entities, and also his loving attitude towards his creation, because he understands that there is no other way for us living entities to be happy other than reestablish our relationship with Him. But that cannot be forced, so it has to be our desire to do that. But because we have different desires, Krishna is creating all this material universe only to facilitate us that experience. So, but the important point also is to understand that it's temporary. Doesn't have to do much with our real identity as a spiritual soul. It's like a dream or a theater when we are watching a play in theater. It's just something that has the end. It's like a dream. So if we do have real understanding about this principle, so in that way we can orient it better our activities. So I think is what I can say now. I prepared different points, but I don't think it's needed. It's already time. So if you have any comment and questions that you would like to say, I'd be very grateful. Thank you.
Madhu, you're thinking of the mind intelligence.
Sure, Prabhu.
So, I never thought about the influence part. You explained based on the influence rather than its constitutional nature.
The constitutional nature of mind and
Mind
intelligence.
and the intelligence.
Yeah.
So your explanation was more based on the intelligence is more prone to the mode of passion so that the material desires can be fulfilled.
Mm.
So it was, in one sense, not looking directly its constitutional innate nature, rather looking from how much it is prone to be influenced or how it has to be influenced by the modes. Is that right?
Yeah, according to their functions.
More based on influence rather than the function. That is my point.
Yeah. If we want to talk about the need,
And so if you look into the nature of mind and intelligence, then it looks more right to say that mind is in moral goodness and intelligence is in passion. Because if you just see the function of the intelligence, it is to discern, to inquire. The intelligence in its nature is active, whereas mind in its nature, it can think, feel, and it can be, it's more on a goodness plane, if you see, in its natural state. Whereas intelligence in its natural state is active. So in that way, even looking from a constitutional innate nature, intelligence looks more towards in passion in comparison to the mind.
yeah, that's a good point, Prabhu. At the same time, do not forget those are energies of the Lord as a nature.
Yes.
So the different elements that is created from Krishna's energy. But also we mentioned in the beginning that this is material, intelligent material mind. But if we talk about constitutional positions, we can also understand that there is a spiritual intelligence and a spiritual mind. So that they're beyond the modes of nature. And they are active because they are part of the spiritual soul that by nature is active and is beyond the modes of nature in that way. Because it is explained that the nature of the living entity is active. And for that reason is one of the arguments that Srila Prabhupada is presenting, that we cannot remain eternally in the Brahma Jyoti inactive as a spiritual souls, considering that aspect. If that is
Yeah,
something.
but if we consider the spiritual side of it, then emotions are considered superior than intelligence.
Yeah, again,
Even
because
Yeah.
it's again in the absolute aspect,
Yes.
but not in the material
Of course,
condition.
not I'm talking about Bhagavad Gita when you're struggling, but even in a progressive stage of a devotee, emotions become superior to intelligence as one gets purified.
Yeah, and in that aspect, for example, if we talk about the superior nature or spiritual nature, it's not that one is superior than the others. They are all interdependent because they cannot control others or function independent of others. In that way, they are all in the same level. And what is superior basically is just the type of, in so-called superior, because in those mind intelligence or spiritual mind intelligence are more related to what type of relationship we are with the Lord. So in that way, we have different relationships with the Lord, which is described in Nectar of Devotion in details as well. So the mind and intelligence work depending on that. They work in that way. But it doesn't mean that one is superior to the other from the absolute point of view. But they are, we can classify, for example, the Sankhya Ras, Sakya Ras, Sankhya Ras, Dasa Ras, Sankhya, Santa, Santa, Dasa, Sakya, Vatsalya, and Madhurya Ras. So like a upgrading in one sense. But those, the mind and intelligence are just, spiritual mind intelligence are subordinated for that, based on those functions. So it's not one is superior to the others in that sense. Well, we talk in absolute terms, if that is the point. Okay, well, thank you for the comment, Bro, for the question. Yeah.
Where do those emotions are superior saying, where do they come from? Which platform is that from?
Purifies the consciousness of the soul, because according to our relationship with the Lord, if we talk about this in absolute terms. Is that your question, Madhu?
No, where do the emotions originate from?
As we said, for example, it's the mind that is, the functions of the mind is feeling, thinking, willing. So based on that, the emotions have its roots in the mind. And the nature of those emotions is based in what type of mind we have, purified, spiritual mind, or contaminated mind.
Isn't that from the heart, the emotions?
But the mind is in the heart if you want to be more specific. If that answers your question, Mataji?
Yeah. Mataji, also I want to know, what are there's more than 10 Leela avatars, and what were the other ones mentioned in Bhagavatam?
25, as far as I remember, that's in the 3rd chapter of Bhagavatam. Different descriptions of different incarnations of the Lord. And also we should understand that the Leela avatars, many of these categories, many incarnations, they can be in both or 3 of these categories simultaneously, not just one. So in that way. That's Bhagavatam first canto, these descriptions. If there is no any more comments, thank you.